curious to see how Carlos is going to navigate this. He's, with the Scrounger, he's forced to race. He just has to keep bashing. But Riley looks like he's got some pretty nice options for piling on a bunch of damage, though. He did end up trading off that Cub. Wow, and there's a freighter.
Renegade freighter. Yeah, the Scrappy Scrounger card that's probably best in red-black artifact aggressive deck, so I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out here in black-green. Riley playing a Sky Skiff, 2/3 flyer with crew cost of 1. I like the Skiff. He's going to pay an energy to put a counter on the Rhino.
Yeah, he's going to pay the 2 energy that he had left over from the Rhino itself.
Passes back. Looks like he misses land drop there.
You can see he's got another puzzle knot in his hand.
Thriving Rhino of his own for Carlos. Yeah, the puzzle knot can get him some life back later in the game.
Yeah, it's so slow.
But it's very slow.
He is getting ran over here pretty cleanly.
All right, the Rhino crews the train. Smash.
Wow, I think Carlos may just run away with this one. I mean,
yeah,
like
that freighter is certainly a renegade.
He just hit for 9 damage.
Yep.
Riley's hit 4 now. I mean, sure, he can gain a little bit of life back with a puzzle knot or 2, but that's just way too slow. Well, he did find that fourth land.
And he can draw a card if he so chooses.
Indeed.
But he's just going to gain some life.
He's going to double puzzle knot here, it looks like. And then leave his blockers back.
He's going to get a lot of energy, too, notably. So if he ever manages to kind of dig himself out a bit of this hole a little bit, he can make that Thriving Rhino huge.
Yeah. Yep, he can. Yeah, Carlos has really disincentivized him from doing so. Oh, it looks like Riley wants to race here as well.
He's getting in there. Sky Skiff crewed by the Glint Nest Crane and the Thriving Rhino. Pass the turn back. Carlos, another Rhino. 4 energy. Crews the train.
It's going to be game.
Smashes in. Yep, that's it. Riley scoops him up. Game 1 goes to Carlos.
It was a super risky play by Riley to make that attack. He was trying to set up a 2-turn kill against Carlos Romao, but if Carlos had any way to crew his Renegade Freighter in his hand or off the top of his library, that's any creature with power 2 or greater, he could assemble lethal there, and as turned out, he did.
Yeah, that's something you have to keep in mind in this format. Obviously, with vehicles running around, is if you have a creature and a vehicle on the battlefield, even if you don't have any, the next turn you play one, you can crew it and smash. All right, we're going to take a look in here. Josh Newell
and Daniel Cecchetti.
Daniel also playing Glint Nest Crane. No sleeves.
Daniel's a Madison area player. He also is a GP champ. He also played on the World Magic Cup for the United States team a few years ago. For those of you that remember that.
Josh looks to be on green-black. Counters matter strategy. And there we see it again. Appetite for the Unnatural coming down. Taking care of the Iron League Steed from Josh. Malphus Squad on the battlefield for Josh. 3/1 Fabricate 1 Menace. Pretty fun flavor text on that card. Something like nice invention looks fragile.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Foundry Screecher for Josh and a Sky Skiff. Foundry Screecher has +1/+0 because of the servo and the Sky Skiff. Well, Daniel's got a lot of mana and plenty of cards in hand.
Yeah, I believe he just drew another land. Yeah, he did. Both players opting for full art lands here.
Ooh, you've got a classy.
I mean, no sleeves, but...
Living dangerously. Classy and dangerous.
Indeed. The Daniel Cecchetti lifestyle.
I'd read that book.
Yeah. And he's going to go in the tank.
Yeah.
Daniel's from Madison. Absolute limited hotbed. They do all types of drafts down there once the new sets come out.
All right, it sounds like our first match is ready to go for game 2, so we're going to head back over there. Keep an eye on that other table, though, and let you know what happens. All right, so Riley, servant of the Conduit in play, Carlos, has an Umbral Brawler 3/1. Playing a Chief of the Foundry and smashing with Servant of the Conduit for 2. Chief of the Foundry giving other artifacts +1/+1. Umbral Brawler 3/1. It does have Menace if you control an artifact. Servant of the Conduit, just a solid little card. It's 2/2 for 2. You get 2 energy, pay an energy, tap it, add a mana of any color to your mana pool. Just everything you want in a 2-drop, really.
Indeed. Yeah, that Bruiser should jump up ahead of the lands there. We'll get that switched for you, too. There we go.
All right, attacks for 3.
Yeah, the Bruiser's just going to offer a trade here. You know, the Chief of the Foundry can be a real problem for Carlos going late into the game. And he would be fine just to trade off his 2-drop for that.
Everything coming in tap for Carlos.
Yeah, it's like a
Deadlock trap.
Deadlock trap there from Carlos.
So Deadlock Trap comes along with 2 energy.
Yeah.
Enters the battlefield tapped. You can pay an energy and tap it, and you are able to tap target creature or planeswalker, which is interesting. Its activated abilities can't be activated this turn.
Yeah, that's whatever it gets tapped down gets kind of frozen up as well for the turn. So kind of interesting. It's a pseudo removal spell here for Carlos.
Oof, Hunt the Weak.
Ooh.
Giving a counter to Chief of the Foundry, taking down the Umbral Brawler. Hitting for 5.
That is savage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is going to be a major issue here for Carlos.
Deadlock Trap is an interesting card. Kind of one I'm not 100% sure of in this format yet. Oh, Gonti, Lord of Luxury for Carlos.
I love this guy.
That's a card. Gets to look at the top 4 cards of Riley's library and choose one to exile. Then at any time he may play it and spend mana as if it were mana of any color to cast it.
He steals one of your opponent's cards.
He just takes it.
Yeah.
No big deal. Gonti, I mean, he likes the finer things in life, obviously. He also has Death Touch. Notably, I shouldn't say he since an Aetherborn. Normally, also notably, even if Gonti dies, you can still play that card.
That's
that was
right.
exiled.
That's right. Uh-oh, here's a big play from Riley.
Another multiform wonder.
All right. Well, we've seen a couple of those. And frankly, I think we'll see every single multiform wonder opened in the entire room will make it into the deck. You know, this is something that we see pop up. When you have a really great card that's colorless, it'll be in every deck. You know? All the Sky Sovereigns, we'll see a bunch of those.
Oh, Sky Sovereign.
Yeah. Everyone open is going to be in somebody's deck, I would predict. So
that card is just dumb, Marshall. I played with it last night in a draft.
You had it in your deck?
I did.
God, I got a draft with you. You get all Cloud Blazers and Sky Sovereigns, and I'm playing like rhinos and hyenas.
Yeah, it deals 3 when it enters the battlefield. I mean, that just feels... I feel bad. Also good, but also bad. There, you can see it on your screen for a second. 6/5. It attacks, it deals 3 as well. Crew of 3. Ridiculous.
Yeah, that card's...
That's a card.
Kind of dumb. It's like so powerful.
But I mean, just the fact that vehicles happen in this set makes me very happy.
Oh, you're a vehicle fan?
I'm a huge vehicle fan, Marshall. A lot of people are on the energy train, which I think is also fine because energy is awesome. But I just love the fact that vehicles finally happened and R&D figured out a way to make them really neat, really playable, and make kind of for a complex format.
This format has definitely proven complex so far, both on the big picture and even on an individual card basis. You know, even cards like Fabricate often challenge you to make a decision about, well, do I want this +1/+1 counter or this servo? And that can be a game-changing decision in some scenarios. And I love formats like that. So far, this has been pretty fun.
Carlos taps 5 for Riparian Tiger. Gets 2 more energy.
All right.
Yeah, he has a solid little wall going on there.
He does.
Riparian Tiger, another sort of staple common for the green deck. So you can see it's a 4/4, and you can pay 2 energy to give it +2/+2 until end of turn as trample as well.
Yeah,
So
that's only when it attacks, though.
yes.
And you can only do it once. So it can't be a 6/6 on blocks, and you can't just dump, 20 energy into it to make it a,
Right.
whatever. You do. So it's a little tricky to use. But basically, it attacks, if you wanted to, as a 6/6 with trample for 5 mana at common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Common.
That's the real deal.
All right, we have an Oval Chase Dragster from Riley. Trample Haste 6/1. The Rhino's going to crew it.
Wow, this is a heck of a turn here for Riley.
Yeah.
He spent 7 mana and really added to his board nicely. He's just daring Carlos to start using up energy counters to keep the Dragster or other threats locked down.
Yeah, there goes the Deadlock Trap, locking down the Dragster. Crew cost of 1. Ooh. That's a card to be afraid of coming out of your opponent's hand out of nowhere.
You can see the Chief of the Foundry also doing work here, as we see Riley has 2 other artifact creatures, the Multiform Wonder, and then when it's active, the Dragster.
Carlos at 9.
Yeah, Carlos is pretty far behind here. He was able to put a race together in game 1, but it's difficult to do here.
How do you feel about Deadlock Trap, Marshall?
I've only had a chance to play it once so far. I was reasonably impressed. I think that if you have a deck that's capable of making energy, you probably do want it in your deck. That said, I haven't been blown away.
Okay. I was wondering, I played it the other day in a draft, and I think it shines obviously a little bit more in sealed, but I just wondered if I would always have energy, if it'd be worth it to spend on it. I suppose it's only costs 1 to tap something down, and if you're reliably getting enough energy, then it's worth it.
That's the key. If you get to tap down something twice and then you never put any energy into it again, it's not worth it. It's borderline, but it's still not worth it, because one of the other downsides is that it enters a battlefield tap. You don't even get to use it right away.
Nature's Way from Carlos here.
Looks like the Tiger's going to claw at the Multiform Wonder here. Oh, actually, you know what? I think he did the Gonti.
He was Gonti.
Yeah.
Yep. Gives Vigilance and Trample till end of turn to Gonti as well. And deals damage equal to Gonti's power to target creature.
Right, and since he has Death Touch, that means that it's going to die no matter what.
Yep. Making use of the Vigilance here to get in with Gonti as well as the Tiger.
Yeah, I like this attack here from Carlos. He doesn't mind trading Gonti for the Chief.
Oop, he's going to cast Riley's card. There comes Pima Outrider.
Oh, there it is. The crazy part is he could actually just cast it.
Yep. Yeah, he didn't need to.
Well, it's funny because, he could, but it doesn't always line up perfectly, right? In this case, it happened to be fine, but
that's funny.
It's pretty nice.
Chooses to make a servo off of Pima Outrider's Fabricate trigger. 3/3 trample. Not too shabby. So in Riley's spot, he does have the Oval Chase Dragster and a Thriving Rhino, and now Kujar Seed Sculptor coming into play, going to give a +1/+1 counter to someone. But the wall that Carlos has put up is pretty significant, as well as that Deadlock Trap just sitting there. Decides to put the counter on the Rhino. Seed Sculptor is going to crew the Dragster.
Yeah, I like that.
Yep.
It's really forcing Carlos to keep tapping that thing down, because it's just 7 damage from the Dragster, so much.
Yeah. 7 trample. Yikes. Passes the turn back. Kujar Seed Sculptor is a fine little card too, I found.
You know, worst case scenario being a 2/3 for 2 mana is an excellent card.
Yeah.
And then you can see spots like this later on where he's using it to crew an Oval Chase Dragster and put the counter somewhere else.
It's value.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's a really good 2-drop.
Playing in draft last night, my opponent cast Kujar Seed Sculptor and put the counter on itself on turn 2, and I was like, well, I can't attack into that for at least a little while.
Yeah.
Riparian Tiger entering the red zone, along with Pima Outrider for Carlos.
2/4/4 Tramplers. Curious to see if Carlos spends the energy here for the Tiger. If he doesn't, that means he's saving it for the trap. If he does, it means he probably has another.
The Rhino lining up to block the Pima Outrider. We have a Subtle Strike from Carlos. This card has impressed me. Give a +1/+1 counter and give something -1/-1 until end of turn.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's not so subtle when you play it like this.
No.
It's just a smashing. Yeah, Carlos is just pulling ahead further and further here every turn.
Ooh, Aetherbone Marauder.
Yeah, he's going to steal that +1/+1 counter. He can take those counters from any of his creatures, the +1/+1 counters, and put them on the Aetherborn Marauder.
So that Aetherborn Marauder is now 3/3 with lifelink flying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really great little card. Nice turn there from Carlos Romao. He set that up nicely, taking down an opposing creature and also getting a counter on one of his so that when he plays his Aetherborn Marauder, it can now be... And there is a huge difference, by the way, in this game between 2/2 flying lifelink and 3/3 flying lifelink. You can see that Riley has fallen now down to 6 life, so that's a 2-turn clock in the air with no other attacks needed. Now, as it turns out, Carlos has plenty going on and will probably be able to finish the game next turn, but if he can't, the Marauder does a really nice job of closing it out in the air.
So the Dragster's been crewed once again by the Seed Sculptor.
Yeah, I think that Carlos is just going to take it this time. He's taking on a little bit of risk here. Blossoming Defenses would kill him.
It would. All right, pass back to Carlos.
But he does. Yeah, he just took it. Falls down to 2.
He's at 2.
And he should be able to go for the win here. He
swings out. Smash.
Best Riley can do is crew up for 1 blocker.
Yep, that's game. Carlos takes it. 2-0.
So yeah, interesting stuff down there. Anything popping out? You know, I could see we had a lot of vehicles.
Yes.
Already. I'm really curious to see what the right number of vehicles to play is. You know, that's something that I want to know. Coming in, I think it's maybe a little fewer than people are playing. Like, I don't know if you really want 3 vehicles in your deck.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Maybe you do. I don't know. We'll find out.
All right, we're going to check in here. Josh Newell. Currently with a lot of stuff happening on the board here against Daniel Cecchetti.
We can also see that he did win game 1, which was the one we were watching a little earlier on a live looking.
Night Market Lookout. Tapping to crew
the Pain Train.
The Pain Train.
Yeah, that's in conjunction with the servo since it is 2. And
wow. Oh, there we go. That's game. Josh takes it. Yeah, Night Market Lookout, also a card that I'm I wonder about whenever it becomes tapped. It basically gains and drains. You gain a life, opponent loses a life. So good for crewing vehicles, but it's just a 1/1 on its face.
Yeah, you can stop wondering about it. It's pretty bad. I think, look, every card in Limited, basically every card in Limited has a use, right?
Right.
You don't want to ever just dismiss cards and just say, I'm literally never touching that card. It's terrible. It's awful. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty comfortable saying that card is a card that if you just never played, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there's going to be a deck or two over your Kaladesh Limited career where you want it, but I think for the most part, you don't.
Yeah, we got to stop looking at best case scenario mentality. Is that it,
God,
Marshall?
You're so good. You're so
I listened
good.
to your show, no big deal.
Jeez, wow. It's good stuff.
All right, so some good Magic we've seen here today already. Rounds 1 and 2. We've still got a lot here to go at GP Atlanta. In fact, we've got some more Magic for you coming up. So that's the end of round 2. But we did record another match from round 1, which we're going to take a peek at. This is going to be Andrew Pacifico versus Justin Ferguson. Andrew Pacifico, also a pretty good player as well. He was finalist. He was a finalist at Pro Tour Atlanta back in 2005.
Oh, wow.
So he's coming back home, as it were, to defend the turf and see if he can make it to the finals once again.
Yeah, well, that was a Pro Tour there.
Yeah, it was. A little bit different.
This is a GP, but still, I mean, that's pretty cool. You know, he may be local too. I don't know where he's from, but that's pretty awesome. And then his opponent has a kind of an interesting deck. In fact, I think I have the deck list over here.
3 colors.
Nope, I don't have the deck list over here. This is a different one. But yeah, he's playing a 3-color deck with what we call it the Devil's Mana Base.
Yes, 666.
666 mana base, and has been perhaps a little ambitious with this build. So
well, sometimes in
curious to
sealed
see.
you've got to go 3 colors. Say your pool overall is weak, you just have to make that decision.
You know, there are times to do that. Looking at cards in the set that help you do that, if you're in green,
Yep.
then you're actually pretty lined up to do it. You can find cards like Attune with the Ether, which really help you fix your mana for a low cost, also give you some energy in there. Prophetic Prism, of course,
Prophetic
is a big
Prism.
one, and then Wild Wanderer is another one that can help you splash. Now, normally when we talk about splashing, though, we are talking about a card or two, nothing with double mana symbols, a real easy splash. Cards that tend to be a little better later in the game. You don't want to splash that often for cards that are good early in the game because you often won't
have your
the
splash.
colors. Yeah, and so you want to kind of lean things in that direction. But Justin here has gone kind of off the deep end with it, and he's just
He's going
full
for
on
it.
3 colors. And like you said, you do see that happen though at GPs occasionally, where somebody's like, "Look, I'm not that happy with my pool. I think if I build this 2-color deck, I don't have a shot."
Yep.
And so I'm gonna take on the extra risk, and I'm gonna go for the big stuff in 3 different colors.
Sometimes in sealed, it's all about power, and if your deck can't get there based on synergy, or you simply don't have enough creatures in a certain color, you've got to take the risk and go big. So we're gonna head down to the feature match area, back in time, round 1, Andrew Pacifico versus Justin Ferguson. Justin on the left side of your screen there, Andrew on the right. Justin, as we mentioned, playing 3 colors. Andrew, 2 colors, red, black. Something I'm a little scared of sometimes in sealed is playing colors like red, black, which are traditionally pretty aggressive, because I'm worried my deck will just run out of steam and peter out. But
that's a very legitimate worry, Maria. That is something that happens in sealed deck quite often. It's just so difficult to put together a super consistent aggressive deck in sealed.
Dund Operative from Justin Ferguson, a 2/2, becomes a 3/2 with Death Touch if he controls an artifact. There comes the Pain Train from Andrew.
Jeez, right away.
Yep.
As early as next turn, it could be attacking for 5.
There's a Night Market Lookout from Justin. Just going to get in for 2. Beware the train next turn. That's all I can say.
He's not going to be able to block it anyway. Well, maybe he will.
Oh,
He's
Dund
got another
Operative.
Doomed Operative here. That still doesn't give him enough to block. He would have had to leave back the other one. But this does get interesting because if Andrew wants to play a creature, crew the train, the Renegade Freighter, attack with it, He can get in for a significant hit, but it'll leave him tapped out. And if Justin has an artifact, he can attack for 8 damage next turn. 3/6 plus 2 from the Night Market Lookout. And Andrew could find himself behind in a race pretty easily thanks to the 2 copies of Dune Operative we see on the battlefield here. So Andrew's going to have to be careful with that.
Filigree Familiar.
Yeah, right off the bat. So this is the choice that Andrew has. He could leave it back and just planning on blocking one of the operatives. Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
He gets a card out of it. His life total gets buffered here. Back to 20. I don't know. He's got interesting options. I think if I were Andrew, I'd probably sit back.
Yeah, so would I. Gain 2 life off the Filigree Familiar. When it dies, he gets to draw a card. It's also an adorable fox, which shouldn't be overlooked when considering whether to add it to your deck.
Good dog.
Justin playing Hunt the Weak. Which is, Hunt the Weak on a Filigree Familiar never feels great.
It doesn't, but it is allowing him to get in for 7 damage here.
Yep, absolutely.
And you got to respect that. Also, he is making the Renegade Freighter worse by making this play. Now Andrew, once again, doesn't have a way to crew it. He's going to have to find an answer here.
Couldn't crew in response because Renegade Freighter's crew cost is 3. It's 2?
It's 2. I don't know why he didn't crew in response, but he should have. There's a chance that he didn't want to risk the freighter here, but he did have blocks.
Malphus Squad coming in from Andrew.
Yeah, I think that was just an oversight from Andrew. Vehicles are a new type of card, new type of permanent, and he may have just overlooked it. But I think, it would have saved him a lot of damage if he would have crewed his freighter and blocked either of the 2 creatures that it could just gobble up as a 4/3.
Justin coming in with everything again.
Yeah, that's a really bold attack here because Andrew has good blocks.
Yeah, those are very good blocks.
Oh.
Up.
Subtle Strike?
No, Rush of Vitality.
Rush of Vitality. Okay.
+1/+0, lifelink, indestructible.
Not bad.
No.
That's not nearly as good, though. He still traded off a real card for a servo, which is a tough sell. But he gets to maintain his board state.
Yep. Another Dune Operative from Andrew there.
Yeah. Who loves Dune Operative? Well, these 2 players do. I actually do, too. I think the card's excellent.
It's great. And a Workshop Assistant from Justin as well. Threatening to get back an artifact.
Which doesn't exist.
Which doesn't exist.
But it is making his Dune Operatives both.
Yes.
+1/+0 and Death Touch. But Andrew's is as well, thanks to the freighter.
Welding Sparks, the play from Andrew here. Taking down that Dune Operative.
And then trading these 2 off. It looks like Justin didn't see the freighter there, so he thought that it was a chump block, but it's not.
Cleaned up the board pretty nicely.
He sure did.
Spontaneous Artist from Andrew, which can give haste, but doesn't need to. Cracks in.
This turn. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and crew up the freighter and jam. This one could fall away from Justin Ferguson very, very quickly here. This is a lot of damage that Andrew represents next turn.
Justin draws. Looks like he has an island and a Nature's Way in his hand, which is not going to help, but he's going to get in for 1.
Andrew has an unlicensed Disintegration in hand. Doesn't need to use it at the moment, but has it in case.
Renegade Freighter!
Double Pain Train?
Oh, wow. Double crew, activate using the haste ability from Spontaneous Artist. Smash for 10.
So he gave the other train haste.
Yeah.
I said it was going to be a lot of damage. I honestly didn't think it was going to be that much. But
ouch.
Here we go.
Poor little Workshop Assistant sitting back there.
Yeah, nothing to get back. No good block since the trains have trample.
Andrew really turned this game around.
Yeah, super quickly.
Crew and attack once again.
This does keep him alive. Keeps him at 1 life.
Those trains do have trample, notably.
Yeah. We're showing him at 3, but we had him at 11. He just got attacked for 10 and soaked up 2 of it. Yeah. We'll see. Either way, he's facing likely lethal.
Riparian Tiger.
I don't think it's going to be good enough.
Here comes the Nature's Way.
Okay.
To shoot down. Oh,
that's going to do it.
That's game. Andrew Pacifico takes game 1 here against Justin Ferguson. Unlicensed Disintegration. That's a card.
Yeah, that is disgusting. It also killed Justin there.
Yeah, it did. It sure did. Deals 3 if you control an artifact.
The Renegade Freighters are mad that they didn't get to finish the job, but whatever.
Welding Sparks 2, I just want to point out, what a fantastic common. Deals X damage, where X is the number of artifacts you control plus 3. It's incredibly powerful. Cost 3. What more do you need in a common?
Yeah, it's really good. It's really efficient. The fact that it's instant speed is really important. Honestly, it's funny, but watching the game that we just watched, Maria, killing a Renegade Freighter is a big deal. When
sure
it attacks, it gets a trigger, but it is attacking at that time. And you can see the subtleties that R&D does when they design these cards, because Renegade Freighter's very powerful. Right?
Yes.
It is a type of card that can slam the door on a game right off the bat. But Welding Sparks, instant speed, does 3, kills it before the trigger resolves.
Yep.
And same thing with impeccable timing. And, that's, I would almost guarantee that that's not a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? That they wanted to have it be a 5/4 with trample, that's just some huge,
Yeah.
But they said, well, how can we make this a little bit, because, that's not the cleanest design. Well, why is it getting bigger when it, it's like, well, what's the deal with this? But then you start to notice the other commons in the set that can actually kill it and interact with it at that time, and you're like, oh, I see what you did here. And,
right.
And it makes it a little more palatable.
I had a lot of interesting conversations actually at the World Championship. I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of members of R&D about vehicles in the set because I was pretty interested in them. And they went through something like 20 iterations of vehicles before they landed on the crew mechanic. Oof. I mean, talk about dedication to making something work. I'm really happy they figured it out because obviously they're amazing in the format and they're so much fun to play with and very, very silly at times because your vehicles can crew other vehicles and that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And Magic's all about having a good time, so.
No, that's not what it's about.
What's it about, Marshall?
It's strategy.
Winning?
Yeah, winning.
At all costs?
Yes, winning.com. No, of course, and there is some really funny stuff that happens because, the idea is when you crew the vehicle, that's supposed to be the creature kind of getting in the vehicle and driving it. But, you ever seen a cat monkey, driving like a sky skiff? Or
Fingers crossed for this weekend.
There's some funny stuff that can happen just when you stop and go, wait, what's happening? A hyena is now driving a train, and, there's some neat stuff with that.
I love those visuals.
Not that I pay attention to any of that stuff ever.
No, of course not. Serious Magic times.
Right.
All right, so our players are ready to go here. Thriving Turtle from Justin. It's an 03, gets 2 energy. When it attacks, you can pay 2 to give it a +1/+1 counter.
And we'll likely see Justin do that here.
It's interesting, wondering about the merits of playing a Thriving Turtle in, say, for example, a red-blue energy deck. Is it worth it?
Yes. It usually is. The good case scenario is this, where if you have enough energy creatures, like right now, we just saw him play Attune with the Ether, and that does actually give him another pair of energy to dump into the turtle next turn. When you get that thing up to a 3/6, it's a real pain to deal with.
It sure is.
So if you are an energy deck, this is a good way to do it. Now, your worst case scenario is that it makes 2 energy itself and gives you a creature, and that isn't worth a card, but the upside makes it that it is worth a card. So
there you go, Zan, putting another counter on it.
2/5.
Dueling Doomed Operatives.
Yeah, it's a little awkward to start off with the turtle into the Doomed Operative. These 2 cards don't tend to cross paths that often, but hey, if there's a lot of overlap, so it could work out for Justin.
He has all 3 colors of his mana as well, thanks to Attune with the Aether. I see Unlicensed Disintegration in Andrew's hand again.
Yeah, it looks like he's maybe trying to set that up.
Filigree Familiar, gaining a couple of life. Filigree Familiar, also a card that's really handy in the blue-white sort of blink strategy.
Get some extra life out of it.
Yep.
Sure.
In come the turtle and the Dune operative for Justin. This is where the Filigree Familiar really proves its worth. I mean, it's trading off potentially.
I mean, this is a great block scenario for Andrew. Looks like he's going to play it a little bit safe. He could block with his Dune operative on the turtle, and if everything looked the same, then it would be trade, which would be fantastic for Andrew. But it looks like the 4 mana from Ferguson has him worried enough that if his Filigree Familiar were to disappear, it would turn it into a chump block with the Dune operative, and he doesn't want to do that. So he's played around it pretty cleanly here, and it looks like that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, rush of vitality from Justin.
So good play from Andrew there, not falling for the bait.
The turtle bait.
Yeah, and he it's only 2 extra damage.
Yeah.
It's not like the turtle has to go away immediately. If he's got other ways to kill it or more artifacts, he can kind of work his way through and leverage his life total a little bit in between.
Spontaneous Artist.
Or put up a blocker.
Yes. Brings along an energy. He's going to give it haste. And hit for 5.
Nice aggressive play here from Pacifico.
That's exactly what his colors want to do. Passes back. Justin, notably, no more energy currently to grow the turtle. Ooh, Metallurgic Summonings from Justin. That's a card.
Wow. All right. Well, we mentioned earlier that Justin went pretty deep on this build he's playing 3 different colors. It's 49 card deck, and he's got Metallurgic Summonings here as well.
3 blue enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create an XX colorless construct artifact creature token where X is that spell's converted mana cost. Then you can pay 3 mana and exile Metallurgic Summonings. 5 mana. Get back all of your instant and sorcery cards from the graveyard.
Yeah, you can only do that if you have 6 or more artifacts on the
Yikes.
which I'm assuming come from the Metallurgic Summonings, and by that time you've probably already won the game anyway, but whatever.
Meanwhile, Andrew's just going to attack, which is one of the perils of playing a card like Metallurgic Summonings. Doesn't do anything on the turn it's cast.
Mm-hmm.
Subtle Strike from Andrew. Gives his Spontaneous Artist a counter. Taking down the turtle.
Yeah, the Foundry Inspector there also getting representing an extra point of damage thanks to the Dune operative picking up that +1/+0 and Death Touch. This is a big turn for Ferguson. He gets to untap at 15 life with the Metallurgic Summonings in play.
Yep.
If he can chain together 2 or 3 instants and or sorceries, he could take over this game with it.
Syndicate Trafficker from
that's
Justin.
not going to do it.
It's a 3/1. You can pay 1, sacrifice an artifact to give it +1/+1 and indestructible. I think he's holding an Ether Trade Winds.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because I saw Andrew pointing at the summonings, but as we know, it only triggers with instants and sorceries. But wow, if he does have an Ether Trade Winds in his hand, this could get ugly.
Bricata Pillar Bug from Andrew, 2/3, can pay a black mana to give it lifelink. Cost less thanks to the Foundry Inspector. Foundry Inspector, Spontaneous Artist, and Dune Operative entering the red zone. For 8.
This is huge. If Ferguson can, before blocks, fire off something that matters to the board, he could just completely swing this game back in his direction thanks to Metallurgic Summonings.
Absolutely. All right, so here it comes.
Ether Trade Winds. This should be before blocks. He actually picked up a creature. I'm a little surprised at that.
He can just return any permanent, so he could have returned a land.
Yeah, which I wouldn't have been. I would have been. Would have expected to see that, but either way, he's going to return the Dune operative from Pacifico and bang.
3/3.
This is getting interesting. Ferguson deciding to trade off Dune operative here for the Inspector. Could trade for either.
Yeah.
He does have Death Touch right now.
Takes 4.
I wonder if he wanted to trade off for the artist there.
I might have bounced the artist, but It's rough because it can gives Andrew another energy.
I think that is reasonable, though.
Get rid of that +1/+1 counter on it. 4 mana for another Hunt the Weak.
Oh, and he's going to get a 4/4 out of it. Now, he doesn't get to use the 4/4 to fight because he needs to target before that. But still, I said it a minute ago, right?
Yeah, you did.
This is it. This is chaining together back-to-back spells. And, when you're under a lot of pressure, Metallurgic Summonings looks really bad. But when you're at a relatively even life total like he was here, this could be the game.
So he has 2 4/4s now, basically for free.
Wow, that's pretty cool. A couple of removal spells in hand for Pacifico, though. Really annoying for him. Ferguson having killed the Inspector means that the Welding Sparks in Pacifico's hand doesn't actually kill either creature right now.
No.
Now, he does have Unlicensed Disintegration in his hand, which would get the job done against a creature, but killing one of them doesn't really free up any extra attack, so he's just going to pass.
I really like getting to see this Metallurgic Summonings at its best here. Subtle Strike. We'll trigger it again.
Well, Pacifico, he wants to know, can I counter this? And the answer is no. Those actually, they should just take those off. Right?
So
he's just put it on to mark for the turn? Is that
he's got -1/-1 on it?
Yeah, it shouldn't have a counter, though.
That's a little confusing.
Yeah.
So it's a 3/3.
It's just a 3/3 for the turn, yeah. Yeah, when a spell has multiple targets, it will still resolve any remaining targets, even if one of them gets disintegrated like it did here.
Yep. Well, Andrew playing some cleanup. There's only a 2/2 now on Justin's board.
I gotta say, if I'm Andrew, I'm pretty happy with how that all turned out.
Yeah.
Like, he did have to use his best removal spell to get the job done, but it's looking okay.
Holding a land and a Welding Sparks. Just going to pass the turn back to Justin. Syndicate Trafficker played again from Justin.
Yeah, we saw that before. That was what he returned with the Ether Trade Winds.
Yeah, so technically it could sacrifice that 2/2 to give it itself a counter and indestructible. Andrew passes back again. Oval Chase Dragster from Justin, 6/1 Trample Haste, crew cost of 1. He's going to crew it with the Construct and smash in. This is where Welding Sparks can seem even better.
He's going to probably have to fire it off. He's seeing if he can leverage his board state here. Yeah,
there it is.
That makes good sense.
Sacrifice it and put a counter on Syndicate Trafficker.
Okay.
Fair?
Yeah. Seems fine.
Spark of Imagination? Spark of Inspiration? This card is so unique. 1 red mana, reveal the top card of your library. You may have it deal damage to target creature equal to its converted mana cost. If you don't, you may play it. It's a Weld Fast Monitor. He's going to have it do the damage.
Hey, that worked out pretty
there you
well
go.
for him, yeah.
And Tuned Operative.
This is a good time to play a card like that, too, because he's got plenty of mana to cast whatever it is that he finds if he doesn't want to kill the creature. You know, if you find one of your bombs, sometimes you're like,
Yeah.
You know.
You've got enough mana.
Yeah.
Trading 2 damage here. 2 damage. Glimmer of Genius. Ooh, nice!
God. Glimmer of Genius. Making a 4/4 construct.
Draw 2 cards. Get
Good
2 energy.
God.
Tidy Conclusion takes down that 4/4.
Tidy indeed. Though it's hard to believe that Andrew could keep this up. He's having to use removal spells on these free creatures that Justin is garnering here. Is he getting another one?
Another Oval Chase Dragster. Smash.
That's a nice clock here.
Yeah. Andrew just has to pass back. Justin is crewing the dragster, which is going to get essence extracted. Essence extraction deals 3, and you gain 3 life. It's important for Andrew at this stage.
Looks like Andrew's out of gas here.
Yeah.
I think he's sitting on 2 lands, Maria, so not great.
Well, there's his scrap heap scrounger.
Doesn't look great here either.
Oh, gets eaten with
Wow.
a natural appetite. Scoops him up. Justin takes game 2. We're going to game 3.
Wow, Metallurgic Summonings looked fantastic there.
Wow. Oh, that was really exciting to see that card in action. I haven't gotten to see it in play yet. It's pretty awesome. There's nothing like getting some creatures for free while casting your spells, Marshall. That's called having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, it's funny because the Metallurgic Summoning really demands that you, like, it makes you pay 5 mana to do nothing.
It does.
Right? Like,
That's
sometimes they're
reality.
like, sure, hit you with my Renegade Freighter, and you're like, all right, well. But the times when it goes off, that is powerful. I mean, that was really great stuff.
Meanwhile, game 3 here, Andrew.
All right, well,
crunching in.
good game.
Wow. Weld Fast Monitor, Spontaneous Artist, Thriving Grubs, already has a counter on it. Justin, blank board. Doomed Operative has to pass back. Another Spontaneous Artist.
Do you want to keep talking about game 2? Because this one's over.
Yeah, that's done. All right, game 2. Andrew Pacifico takes it 2-1. That is the end of round 2. We've reached the end of our playback here of round 1. Round 2 has come to a conclusion. Round 3 coming up very, very soon. We've seen some pretty great Magic already here, Marshall. And that's it here from GP Atlanta.
Put your game to the test at a Grand Prix. These Magic celebrations are headlined by 2-day open tournaments with the best players in your region as well as top Magic pros from around the world. Find an upcoming Grand Prix near you at magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix. Support your local game store by going to Friday Night Magic. Have fun hanging out with friends, cracking new Magic packs, and playing with your favorite Kaladesh cards. Featuring devious gremlins, ingenious dwarves, and face-smashing gearhulks.
Welcome back. I'm Tim Willoughby, joined by Hall of Famer Frank Carston. And while we have got our round 2 now in the books, we've got a little bit more catch-up Magic for you before we're able to get things going full and live in round 3. Let's head down to the feature match area to just catch one more match from this in round 2. Now, for this match, we've got Reuben Bresler. Reuben, bit of a personality on the Magic circuit. We've seen him doing commentary over the years. We've seen him writing a lot. He seemed pretty happy with his deck. I'm going to be interested to see what he's got to bring from this one. And he's up against Marshall Rushe from North Carolina, a player who's not necessarily played a lot of Magic recently, but come back to the game after a little bit of a break as new stores open up in his area. And I've heard that this is going to be a blisteringly fast one. I'm going to be interested to see how it goes. Let's head down to the feature match area for our last catch-up match. So there's Reuben on the left of our screen. He's got the old school Apex Swamps, but on the other side of things, a lot of artifacts going on for Marshall Rushe here.
Yeah, I see a Skyskiff, that's a sweet vehicle, a Foundry Inspector, there's a Filigree Familiar, lots of power words of creatures on Marshall's side, and not much that Reuben has.
Yeah, Keys to the City already dealt with by a Fragmentize from Marshall Rushe, and Marshall, I mean, both these players a game up. Marshall already, he's got energy, he's got threats on the board. It's got to be good for him.
Yeah, it looks like Reuben is not really able to cast many of the cards in his hand with his configuration of 3 swamps. Plenty of blue cards, plenty of red cards, not the right colors of mana. And a Renegade Freighter, it's a pretty powerful card when you can crew it, but by itself, not really going to stop the attacks by Marshall.
Yeah, there we see Renegade Freighter getting crewed. It gets to swing in. And Key to the City on both sides of the battlefield. Key to the City, a powerful card in this format.
I've been liking it quite a bit when the board gets stalled, and this format often ends in some kind of board stall. It's a sweet way to break through, keep doing damage, and also filter your lands into fresh cards.
Yeah, worth noting as well that you don't have to give a creature unblockability. You can just use it as an expensive way of looting if you have to.
So this is not lethal yet, although Marshall can definitely get close. Making that Renegade Freighter unblockable is going to do a whole lot of damage.
And on both sides of things, extra cards being drawn here, but Marshall Rushe here with a nice life buffer of 22 to 8. Doesn't have too much more work to do to finish things off here.
Hopping into the vehicles. Choo-choo! There comes the train. Unblockable train. There's a Sky Skiff coming in as well.
Yeah, it's all happening, and Reuben Bresler, well, this first game, he's not really had a chance to show much of what his deck can do beyond playing some pretty sweet lands.
Yep. Another swamp for him. Not the mountain that he needed.
Yeah, he's got one of the fast lands in hand here, but unfortunately it doesn't feel very fast when it comes down on turn 5 tapped. He'd much rather have just found a mountain or an island there, I think.
Yeah, most definitely does not. So Reuben now has to find answers for both Sky Skiff and the Renegade Freighter, which could still become unblockable with Key to the City. He has an Ether Trade Winds, which can bounce one of them, but that is not necessarily enough. Perhaps if Marshall does not activate Key to the City, then, yeah, even then, the Renegade Freighter gets trample whenever it attacks. So I don't think that Reuben has a way to get out of this as long as Marshall plays his vehicles correctly.
Yeah, I mean, while it's sweet to be able to cast Ether Trade Winds to bounce your own Nimble Innovator and so on, you need a little bit more life to play with if you're going to make that one work. Reuben Bresler dropping down in a relatively swift game 1 there.
Yeah, Reuben's name is indeed misspelled on the overlay. We apologize for that. This is the Time Walk match, so it's a recording. We're not able to adjust that right now.
Yeah, it's something that we picked up on, but unfortunately we picked up on it in the past, which is you will see in your future, I guess.
Yep.
It's kind of like the time difference thing. It's the future back in London where they're playing the GP where I'm from, but right here we're in the present and it's just after lunchtime. So sideboarding going on here. Sideboarding pretty important when it comes to sealed deck. Obviously there are lots of options in all of these decks to just tweak things a little bit based on matchups. There are some matchups where vehicles get a little better, some where artifact removal or discard perhaps gets interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at the deck lists of the players here. Marshall seems to have basically a Jeskai deck with, as we saw, some vehicles. He also has 2 copies of Reckless Fireweaver. That's the 1 tree that deals a point of damage whenever you play an artifact, or an artifact enters the battlefield. 2 copies of Build to Smash, so definitely kind of a Jeskai artifact aggro style of deck.
And on the other side of things, Reuben, well, he's fully on the murder train. 3 copies of Renegade Freighter in his list, alongside a Combustible Gear Hulk. Got quite a lot going on in his Grixis build, trying to make the most of the likes of Ether Trade Winds in his blue. Within red, he's got a little bit going on with a couple of Welding Sparks, and then Tidy Conclusion in black. We can see why he's been drawn into 3 colors.
Mm-hmm. And Marshall also managed to open a Sword of Light and Shadow.
Well, that's pretty exciting.
Yep, it is. That's a sweet 3-mana equipment that can give +2/+2 and all kinds of bonuses to your creature. Even has an Inventor's Fair. That's the land to search for it.
Nice, nice.
He may have a bit too many vehicles and creature boosting effects, because in total he has 1 Renegade Freighter, 2 Sky Skiff, and 2 Ballista Charger in his main deck, along with the Sword of Light and Shadow. So, as well as 2 Build to Smash. So he has a lot of cards that only do something when you have some creatures to go with them. Could easily lead to some risks of basically drawing too many vehicles or too many pump spells and not enough creatures. It's all the players here at the GP are also trying to figure out the best way to balance right? The amount of vehicles with a good amount of crew members. I've been playing this format for, well, about a week now, and what I have found to be a good number to target for is, let's say, 2 or 3 vehicles tops. More than that, and too often you'll just have a bunch of cars lying around in the garage without a driver.
Now, when you're building your sealed decks in this format, Frank, where do you place your vehicles? Do you think of them like creatures, or do you think of them like spells when you're trying to kind of make the split?
I think of them as creatures, at least the first couple of ones, because you often try to play them on curve. Right? A Renegade Freighter is a card you want to play on turn 3. It's not a pump spell that you can play whenever you feel like. However, there's just this limit on the amount of enhancement effects and creature and vehicles that you can put in the deck.
And I guess that if you've got a little bit of Fabricate, then that can kind of balance things out a bit in terms of your number of creatures versus number of vehicles.
For sure.
So a better start for Reuben here. He's got multiple colors of mana, Skyskiff coming from Martial Rush. Freighter number 1 on the board.
It's vehicle time. Yeah, it's always nice to see what kind of creatures you can come up with to pilot the vehicles. There's a Reckless Fireweaver, that's the 1/3 guy that pings the opponent for 1 whenever you play an artifact. That's a good pilot. I like crewing vehicles with crew 1 with 1 power creatures. It feels like you're just being efficient.
Picata Pillarbug there being the one to jump aboard the train. Martial Rush, as and when he manages to fix his mana, has got some nice white cards in hand. He can revoke some privileges at some point, which may well prove relevant. Take away the driving license of one of those creatures, perhaps.
Yeah, his mana base is 5 island, 5 mountain, 4 plains, and then an Inventor's Fair and a Sequestered stash as non-basic lands. He doesn't really have any mana fixing of note, so yeah, that is a bit of a dangerous mana base to build. Unfortunate perhaps that he didn't draw all colors of mana, but when you only have, say, 4 basic planes in your deck, you can't expect to find the right mana every single game.
Foundry Inspector coming down there. That will mean that all of his artifacts get a little bit cheaper. Makes everything more efficient when you're playing the artifact plan.
Yeah, now Marshall has some choices to make. He could either go aggressive by, say, tapping the Foundry Inspector to crew Skyskiff and attack for 3. He could also just crew the Skyskiff with his Reckless Fireweaver, attack for 2, but then have the Foundry Inspector back to block the Prakata Pitterbug. He could also choose to not attack at all in order to present a good block for the Renegade Freighter. Well, Marshall goes for the aggressive plan. If I were in his position, looking at the amount of uncastable cards I have in hand currently, I would feel it's going to be tough to win a damage race, because unless you draw the right land, it may be hard to add to the board, and I might play a bit more defensively for that reason. But Marshall likes to attack here.
So Reckless Fanatic coming down to crew the train, and then we also have available black mana so that Prakata Pillarbug gets lifelink. A nice set of attacks there for Reuben, though worth noting that he's still on just 3 lands.
Yeah, both players are. Their mana bases have not been collaborating all that much, but Reuben is definitely ahead in the race right now. He has, well, more power worth of creatures on the battlefield and has a higher life total. Well, a Reckless Fireweaver, I'm not sure it really changes the equation all that much. I mean, Marshall might like to keep attacking here, but I'm not sure I love his position in the damage race.
Yeah, this is a scary moment because another copy of that train coming into play, a big problem. Renegade Freighters for days for Reuben Bresler, and they do have haste, which means it forces some action from Martial Rush. He does have an ability to at least delay the inevitable there, select for inspection, bouncing just one of those trains, allowing a scry for Martial Rush. There you see it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only card in the format that Marshall could have to survive that hasted attack by the double Renegade Freighter, but it is a super high impact one. And it also kind of explains why Marshall was happy to enter this damage race, because he had to select for inspection that can only bounce a tapped creature. So when you have that card, you want to enter into a damage race, because then you can put it to the best use. Now, I don't think Marshall will be able to attack for 11 on this turn. Even if he plays an artifact and gets like a double ping from the Reckless Fireweavers, it's not going to be enough. And at the same time, Marshall knows what's coming on the next turn. He just bounced that Renegade Freighter, so he will have to contend with 2 5/4 trains coming his way on the next turn. And he may just have to keep all of his creatures behind in order to survive. Right, both of them have trample, so that's 10 power worth of trample. You need to keep at least 6 toughness back, otherwise you're just dead on board.
So a couple of pings as Skyskiff comes down thanks to those Reckless Fireweavers. Marshall now having a little bit of think about how he pings. Reuben, we saw, got a sneaky plug-in for his podcast. He's one of the hosts of Magic Mike's and has his Magic Mike's water bottle that he was just drinking out of a second ago. But unfortunately, he's sat there looking at a hand of
Build to smash, it's enough.
Yeah. Built to smash is one of the kind of innocuous combat tricks that doesn't look as powerful as some of the other things you've been doing in the format, but +3 power, exactly where Marshall Rushe needed to be in order to pick up a quick game 2 there and advance to 2-0 here at GP Atlanta.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
And that part of the power, I guess, of Built to Smash, both of the Built to instant, very powerful. But at the end of that game, so we are now officially out of our phases of recorded Magic for a little while. We're going to be able to be back live with you for round 3 here at GP Atlanta soon enough. But before we get